Rise up!
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. I'm your host, Jess Root from CardsWire.com. USA Today's NFL Wire site that covers the Arizona Cardinals. And joining me for episode 755, our second show of the week, is Seth Cox from RevengeOfTheBirds.com, SB Nation's Arizona Cardinals site. Seth, my co-host, and well, we're nearing the end of February. Seth's going to have a week off, so we'll have a couple of solo shows where I'll bring out other guests this next week. But we got a couple of fun things. The Cardinals introduced their coordinators. They had groundbreaking at the property where they're going to build their new world-class training center. And we're going to talk about salary cap moves that could happen by the start of the new league year. Seth, the coordinators were introduced on Wednesday. For you, was there anything that you learned as LaFleur spoke and Nathaniel Hackett spoke, Nick Rawlist and Michael Gabriel, their new special teams coordinator, Coach Goby, as he prefers to go by? Did anything stand out to you in terms of what was said?
I thought the first thing was the conversation about Nathaniel Hackett, and they didn't really have anybody else in mind, or he was always the guy conversation. And you and I've kind of intimated this and chatted about it on this, but the reality of that is he was always the guy because he's a guy that Mike LaFleur can trust implicitly, and he doesn't have to worry about anything else other than LaFleur being kind of his right-hand man, a guy that's going to have his back, that's going to help him out with things, and be there when inevitably things are not going well. And so I thought that was it's always good to hear that there was no, cloak and dagger. There was no like, we were thinking
we cast a wide net. He said, Nate was the guy. Yeah. I wanted him here. He was number one on my list, and he's here. And it makes sense because Hackett is close with the LaFleurs. Okay, so I mean, yes, nepotism is a real thing in the NFL. It's who you know, but 100%. But I mean, it makes a lot of sense because Mike LaFleur is a first-time head coach, and while his brother is a head coach, to have someone on his staff who's been a head coach and been a failed head coach at that, that's there's something to that. To have called plays before, he knows how to set up an offense. He's been around the block and is in his corner. LaFleur doesn't know what he doesn't know yet, and Hackett does know those things. That right down to minor successes to being a bad head coach or being a head coach in a bad situation. That will probably serve him quite well, considering the state of this team right now and their roster. We didn't even talk about the win totals, as the Cardinals are tied for the lowest projected win total in the NFL at 4.5. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that next week, but the Cardinals are in the same spot as they were in 2023 when Jonathan Gannon was hired. And, LaFleur doesn't know what he doesn't know. So he's got a guy, and this is different than even Cliff Kingsbury coming in and with Vance Joseph, is that Hackett is his guy. And especially keeping a guy like Nick Rawlist on staff. And I'm sure Rawlist is happy to be back, but he's Jonathan Gannon's guy. And so he's got to kind of grow on his own. One of the reasons why Bruce Arians, who respected the hell out of Ray Horton, didn't want him on the staff, because you don't want players not going directly to the head coach. And with Hackett, regardless of what other guys have been on staffs together, Hackett's his guy. And so he knows that he can trust him and go through that. So I think that's kind of important, even though as fun as it looks, the Nathaniel Hackett signing makes the Cardinals look like a joke. It does, but they're not the only joke, as Matt Nagy and Frank Reich got jobs. And so it's just fun to see that. And what people don't understand is that despite what they think about Hackett as a head coach or even as offensive coordinator for his time with the Jets, is simply the fact that he knows ball. He is an experienced NFL coach who has been part of the success of the Green Packers. So, hey, why not? What about Nick Rawlis and his? I mean, honestly, he didn't say a whole lot, but the very reflective self about, we weren't good enough.
I think it was a nice way of not taking swings at Jonathan Gannon. I think it was a nice way of owning that the defense just wasn't good enough on his watch, and he's kind of got the self-reflection of we have to be better if we want to continue to be a part of this organization or really be a defense coordinator anywhere, because this is the reality still staring Rallis in the face. You've never coached a top 20 defense. You were given time. 23, nobody expected anything. 24, it was better, right? Their best defensive year. I think even I think they even finished top half of the league in DVOA, right? And you were given time without any expectations that season, because the reality was it was the offense first. We were worried about the offense. We wanted the offense to get better. And then they kind of go whole hog on the investment on the defensive side of the ball, right? And your defense, for lack of better words, craps the bed. You end up being one of the worst defenses in the NFL when you finally get talent. And the main criticism is what he acknowledged, and I thought that was refreshing. We didn't develop guys. And so to me, you identified the problem. Now, how do you answer the problem? That's a different conversation. He's got to prove it now. But they at least he was open to identifying the problem and understanding that this is what has to get fixed for us to take the next step and be better moving forward and realistically continue to be the defense coordinator. Because one of the interesting hires, and I know we're not going to get too much into just position coaches right now, but one of the interesting hires was the fact that they brought on a long time college defensive coordinator to be the defensive line coach. And it's almost as if he's a built-in ripcord if the Rawlis defense continues to struggle as they have early next season. And then it's just going to be like, all right, we gave you the shot, Nick. We brought you back, Nick. It's not working. You're not my guy. No offense, right? You're not my guy. Good luck. Good luck in your next stop. We're going to move on from here. And I do think that's a fair thing too, right? Like you give Rawlis another shot, you bring him back, and everybody is kind of aware, like, hey, this is it, man. Like you're the and I know some position coaches are back and stuff, but like you're the lone survivor of this wreckage. Either show us something or get out. And I do think we saw that demeanor too, right? Like it wasn't as playful, and it wasn't as fun as what we've seen in the past from Rawlis when he's, at the podium. This was very businesslike, very to the point, very somber almost, of like, hey, I'm not going to celebrate all my guys being gone, because let's be honest, he's one of the main reasons that they failed this badly.
Wow. And then special teams coach Michael Gabriel. I mean, he has a complete room to reset, but special teams coaches,
they're quirky.
Yeah, they like, and if we go back to it feels like all kind of special teams coaches are all good except for Amos Jones, right? Is that kind of what we're thinking based on what we've seen over the years? And you had Jeff Rogers in here forever. He managed to make it through 3 staffs, but this is going to be interesting to see if there's anything that changes. But yeah, I took that away as Rollis is being really self-reflective. It was like I guess you say he sees the writing on the wall, and within like the vibe and the rumors that ultimately Rollis was not who they wanted, but it's what they are left with because they wanted Gus Bradley, and Gus Bradley said, "Nah." There are whispers that everyone else turned them down. And Dino Vasso just said, "No, I'm not taking any job," and went back to Houston. But even the guy that was considered the favorite, Aubrey Pleasant, didn't make it. And so, it's back to Rollis. It's back to Rollis. And so he's got to know, if we know, right? If we know that the job was offered to someone else and he still got the job, kind of where he stands. And LaFleur did a really good job of talking him up. But it's hard to sound genuine when the Cardinals went through what they did in terms of their process.
Well, and that's the interesting thing is, like, we've talked about Murray a little bit and how bad the process has been with Murray, right? And that, they've probably done so much damage to him in his trade value, but also in him potentially coming back here that it's broken beyond repair. But we didn't really mention that all of the flirtation, all of the trying to find a new DC, they basically did the same thing to Nick Rallis, right? Like it was like, oh yeah, we're glad to have Nick back. And it's like, dude, you could have gone about it differently, right? Like there's ways to go about it. And so I hope for Nick's sake that he does really have success, not just because the Cardinals need it, right? Like that, there's a reality to that. Like the team needs success and they need, I mean, again, when was the last time the Cardinals developed a young coach, right? I mean, just as much as anything else, when was the last time the Cardinals were like the team that developed a young up and coming coach that everybody was interested in?
Wants.
Yeah. And so maybe this is the reset that Rallis needs, but man, they just did not do a good job of making like
which continues to be the theme of the Cardinals doing things oddly. They did things oddly in their head coaching search, also with their defensive coordinator search. Coming up next on the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best of Cardinals talk on the web. They also did some weird stuff for the groundbreaking of the new facility that's coming in 2 more years. That's coming next on Rise Up See Red. We're back on the Rise of Sierra podcast, best of Cardinals talk on the web. The next thing we've got on Thursday, the Cardinals broke ground on the property up in North Phoenix, where they're going to have their new quote unquote world-class training center, along with a whole lot of real estate ventures. But in all of that, it was kind of cool. But I couldn't help but notice one of the photos as they've got, the important people. They've got Michael Bidwell. They got, they got Monty Ossenfort. They got Mike LaFleur. They got Budda Baker. They got Trey McBride. And then they have Marvin Harrison, no Michael Wilson, and star tight end Elijah Higgins. What in the actual heck was Elijah Higgins doing at this when he's essentially a third string tight end? He's not part of the team's future unless this is telling us something that he's going to be part of the team's future. And like, I give him almost 0% chance that he is on this team in 2028. And you brought up the point as well before the show. They had Marvin Harrison there, which makes sense. He was their the number 4 pick 2 years ago. But then the guy that was the star at the end of the year, Michael Wilson, was not. And then, people talk about, well, Kyler Murray wasn't there. Why in the world would Kyler Murray be there? Why in the world would he be there after what happened? But, I mean, we've talked about, like, good for the Cardinals for making a world-class facility, make this generation-changing type thing. It's been a long time coming. And we know this isn't just because Bidwell is suddenly feeling generous. It's because they had the opportunity on this 217-acre property, this plot, where the Cardinals are going to use 30 of it for their training facility. And fantastic. It's going to be state of the art, and it'll be outdated in 10 years. That's how everything goes. But remember that they're going to use 30 acres of it for the training facility when they're lauding and bragging about the 217 acres. Now, yes, some of that has to do with, parking and roads, but this move is not about the facility. It's about the real estate development that the Bidwells and the Cardinals are the money they're going to make in that by renting, selling land, for commercial, for residential, for all that. And that's how they're paying for it. That's how they're paying for the facility. They wouldn't have done this if this wasn't the way to do it. They weren't just going to bid. The Bidwells were not just going to build a facility.
No, because like you said, they've had years and years and years and years and years and years, 37 of them, in fact, to build a facility. I mean, you and I have both been in the Tempe facility. It is old. Yeah, it's archaic. I mean, it's like I've said before, like there are legitimately high school facilities that are better than the facility in Tempe. And that was just, Cardinals. That was the Cardinals thing. It started in 2000, was it 6 when they opened the new stadium, 8, whenever it was. But like it started then when people were like, why aren't you building a practice facility?
They did little things. They did little things when they started. So they put in the practice bubble for Ken Wisenhunt. They upgraded the weight room and redid the locker room in, was it 2015 for Bruce Arians?
Yeah.
And they changed the food and menu and nutrition under Gannon.
Yeah. But
those are all things negotiated by the coaches for what they're going to do, as what ownerships is going to do as part of him coming on as coach.
But my point was more, the question became, why is your facility staying in Tempe when everything else is in Glendale, right? Like you're on two opposite sides of the valley, and let's be honest, the reason was cost, right? Like you set it up front, like they weren't going to come out of pocket for this. So when this business venture came through, it was a no-brainer. And so it's just one of those things that it's not something worth complaining about, because it needed to be done, and you and I are very excited for the team and the players that this is going to happen. Like you said, which players from this current regime is going to be here? Who knows? Truth be told, I'm just hopeful Mike LaFleur is here to see it open. Like, and I'm not saying he's going to fail, but like just
100%.
Like the history of Arizona Cardinals coaches, it's a 50-50 proposition if he's here to, see it opening up. So that's cool. But like, yeah, man, it's weird to see Elijah Higgins out there. Like, and no offense to Elijah, that's cool. Maybe he was number 15 on the list, right? It was like we've got to have Buddha. I mean, Buddha's a no-brainer. Trey's the face of the franchise now.
Kobe wasn't out there.
and so it's like, who's next, right? Like, who's the next guy? And you go, okay, well, let's see what Michael's up to. Okay, let's see what Will is up to. What do you think Mac Wilson's up to? Like all of these guys, and it landed on, all right, let's get Elijah. He's here. He'll do it. And like, it was just like you said, dude, it was just, I mean, you're a teacher, you know this, Jess. Like sometimes when things happen that are, I don't want to say unexpected because that's giving the Cardinals too much credit, but like if you're at school and your boss goes, hey man, I need you to come in here. We got some photo opportunities. And you're like, okay. And so now all of a sudden, like you're expected to be in somewhere that you weren't expecting to be in. Like that's just kind of how it seems, right? Like, hey, you know what? Elijah's around. Let's just grab him. Like, dude, you guys set the date. You knew when this was happening. Like, why were you not?
30 catch Elijah Higgins, 0 touchdown Elijah Higgins in 2025 is representing and one of the groundbreakers. Good for him. I'm sure that was a blast being out there with his buddies Marv and Trey. But that's funny. That really, to me, is comical. That like I open up Twitter and I'm looking, is that Elijah Higgins? Yes, it's Elijah Higgins. 3rd string, 30 catch tight end.
Well, and that's the thing is like people are going to be like, why are you being mean to Elijah Higgins? It has nothing to do with Elijah Higgins.
Oh, it's just weird that the team would say, like, unless he begged to be out there, why would the team go, yeah, Elijah, not you?
It's just again, it's just always, I understand it. Like, again, we're kind of joking, but kind of not. LaFleur might not even be here. So like when you look back at the grand opening and you look back at the, groundbreaking, are they going to airbrush Mike LaFleur out of the pictures? Right. But like, that Buddha's either going to be retired or, it'll have been an amicable thing. Like you've got Trey under contract that season. Like Marv is technically under contract that season. So why would you? Yeah, why? Like that's the only thing you can say is why. So
dude, it looks honestly, it looks a lot like a lot of buildings up in North Scottsdale.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see how this goes, but yeah, it was definitely interesting to see open that up in Elijah Higgins there. But that wasn't even the most interesting thing, was it, Jess?
No, it wasn't. And that's we have talked about for a long time how media here, we have a really soft media group. And it's Phoenix. That's why. Like we've got sunlight and stuff like that. We don't have hard-hitting questions. And the Cardinals do make it less pleasant for you. But man, Teo Mackey's been going at it. He's the beat writer for the Cardinals, for the Arizona Republic, azcentral.com. He has been at the front office for running things, and he got Bidwill snippy when he asked why he hasn't hired a team president. Because if for those of you who don't recall, Michael Bidwill had been team president since 2006, 2007. while his father Bill was still the owner, but he kind of took over operations about almost 20 years ago. And after his father died, he still had the title of team president. And then suddenly, one day, owner Michael Bidwill. And so he hasn't actively been toting the team president title. And so people have wondered, hey, wouldn't it be smart for him to go get a football guy to be team president? Teo Mackey asked him why he hasn't. And Bidwill didn't even like we talked about with the show. Like if a guy wants to be in the day-to-day of football, like Jerry Jones, Bidwill could simply say that. But he was snippy. Said, I am the team president. Next question. Like he wouldn't further elaborate on that, which I get why he would take offense to that, but it's a real easy answer. He wants to be part of the football. He wants to be part of the football moves. And that's fine, but say that. Like, I don't believe I like the role. I want to do it. I don't believe we need someone else. But to be dismissive, like, oh, I am the team president. Next question. Like, that was weird.
Yeah, and it's just par for the course of the Michael Bidwill experience. And you and I have talked about this before, and you and I have our own I don't want to say axe to grind, because I don't think either of us are bitter. I do think both of us do laugh quite a bit at how, you especially, you've been a very good soldier in terms of covering the team for a long time. And so, just to see you lose your press pass as you documented, and I lost mine 2 years after I started, took over for you at Revenge of the Birds after you had been credentialed there for, umpteen years up to that point. It's disheartening. So, but you and I are also adults, and we're, we understand that people do things the way they want, and they're gonna run programs and run businesses and do all that stuff. And so we've never had hard feelings, but it's interesting to see that somebody that has access to the team is willing to kind of hold the owner's feet to the fire about things that you and I have long wondered about. And we've been especially in the last year since everything went down with you've been more comfortable with some questions that we probably wouldn't have asked previously, because notoriously the Cardinals are very soft about these type of incidents. And I've said, and I think I've said it on here, but maybe I haven't, but the reality of the Cardinals has always been Michael Bidwill wants to be the reason they're great. He has more means of getting expert coaches and expert, people to run the program than I think even fans understand. And he chooses not to, because he wants, like you said, he wants to be part of that. And so he tends to stick his nose in the business more than he should. And I get it. It's his company. He owns it. He's the owner. He's the one that has to take the slings and the arrows when they're not good, right? So he feels like he deserves some level of getting to be the guy that makes the calls when they are good. That being said, and we've talked about this, I know we've talked about this, the best owners are the ones that stay out of things. The reason Jeff Lurie is so successful isn't because he's a hands-on owner. It's because he gives his guys the means to be successful and stays out of the way.
It's their job. Their job is to provide the money, spend the money.
Right. And there's not a better owner in the NFL than Robert Kraft. And we can debate and we can have conversations about moral things and things outside of the football aspect of things. But that's not what the question is. The reality of the situation is Robert Kraft wants nothing more than to see the New England Patriots be the best team in the NFL. And he's willing to jeopardize friendships. He's willing to, like, his goal is that the Patriots are great. Is it a little cutthroat? Yeah, definitely. I mean, he took a Patriot legend in Jared Mayo and was like, good luck after one bad year with a rookie quarterback and Jacoby Brissett. Like, he was like, no, not good enough. See ya. And like, didn't even blink. I mean, it literally be like the Cardinals hiring, I don't even know, like maybe Carlos Dansby, but Mayo is with the Patriots and more successful. But like, it'd be like if the Cardinals hired
Warner.
Yeah, Kurt Warner. And after 1 year fired him. They're like, no, not good, not good enough. I mean, genuinely, Jess, could you see the Cardinals doing that? There's no way.
Honestly, it's one of the things, like, if we go back in Arizona sports history, I've never been a fan of a team hiring one of its own legends as coach, because it doesn't end well, because it is rare that a coach works out. And so, like, as popular guys like Frank Johnson was, the scrappy guy, didn't particularly do well as a coach. Jeff Hornacek, and like, imagine if Dan Marley had coached the Suns and not done well.
Well, and don't you remember, that's all, especially when he went to GCU and had a little success.
Yeah, people want, like, I don't want a Suns legend coaching the Suns. You can have them front office, have them in the organization. I don't ever want my fan team player legends as head coaches. That almost never works out. And it's worked out. I mean, it worked out for Mike Vrabel, but it's so hard to pull off. To have success, and then have success where you had success before. And then, because if you're not going to have success, you're ultimately going to get fired. And then what?
Yeah, and so, like, it's also bad for the player too. Like, and so that's why I say things like, Robert Kraft, because you look at him and you go, he's always kind of been the only guy he gave that extra grace to, understandably, was Bill Belichick. But I mean, the reality is there's no Robert Kraft in terms of NFL owner success, Robert Kraft, without Bill Belichick. Now we can debate the Belichick Brady thing. That is what it is. But, like, even if you give Brady 75%, 25% of that, so 2 Super Bowls, right, is Belichick. So you have to give grace when they've already earned something. But yeah, I mean, the Cardinals don't have that. And so, like, but you even look at Bidwell with, like, Steve Keim, right? Like, he struggled to move off Keimer. Why? Well, and we've joked about this a little bit, but, like, Bill Walsh said it, the GM is the owner's best friend, right? They become buddies. And in real life, that kind of happened with Bidwell and Keim. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, this is what Keim wants, so that's what we're going to do. And it ends up not working out. So then you get what happened with Keim, right? He just gets paid to go away. like they don't even get fired. They just are like, here's your salary. See you later, buddy.
Supposedly he resigned.
Yeah. So like that's the whole thing with all of it, is that, you've got a guy that wants to be the reason that the team's successful, not just the owner. He wants to be part of the
He wants to be part of the
football,
success.
yeah, the football brain of it. And you're like,
And he likes being at the combine and the player interviews. Remember how it talked about Bidwell was there for like 5 different visits with Robert Kindici, and they were so confident, and then he was still a bust. I'm like, oh, so that was all those interviews were helpful.
well, and my favorite thing that I, about all of it is, and I get it. Fans are fanatics, right? That's just what they are. But like, I love when fans are like, oh, his history as a prosecutor is going to go, like, he's the best guy to interview these guys. And it's like, no, he's not. Come on, man. We're really going to go, oh, because you were a prosecutor. Like, how long did he work for? Like, how many cases did he oversee? Like, let's be honest about these things. Yes, he earned his law degree. He did. You cannot take that away from him. But it's not like he wasn't born on third base anyways to get there. Like, it wasn't like he didn't have all the opportunities that a lot of people don't have to get there. And so the reality of the situation is, when you give him all this credit as an for being, X, Y, or Z of as an owner, it's like, oh, he's a lawyer, he's a prosecutor. It's like, okay, come on, guys. Like, you can say, like, he's a very intelligent man. He's had a lot of success in his personal life, but there are very, very few things that show that he's actually a good NFL owner. And one of the glaring things of him not being a good owner is actually the fact that he is, and continues to be, as of today, right, the team president. Because that's a guy that doesn't understand or have his finger on the pulse of how the NFL works best. That's a guy that wants to be more involved in the team success than just providing the funding. He wants to be part of the reason that they're successful, instead of just being the guy that funds the success. And so, that'll be something to watch to see if it continues. Because I mean, we see it online, and I'm not gonna mention any people by name, but like, there are people out there that are like, oh yeah, this hire was a Ossenfort hire. The Gannon hire was a Bidwell hire. And you're like, if that's the reality, right? If you're Monty Ossenfort, and I'm not saying it, whether it's true or not, I'm not gonna, go into that stuff. But why would you even want to be here still then? Right? Like, I get it. There's only 32 GM jobs, and it's a handsome paying job and things like that. But like, why would you want to stick your reputation out for that guy? But on the flip side, we did see that every coach that moved on got brought in by what we would all agree are better organizations. So maybe the consensus within the NFL is, yeah, it's a Bidwell problem, and so I'm not going to hold Drew Petzing, I'm not going to hold Jonathan Gannon accountable, or I'm not going to hold the lack of success in Arizona against them, because holy cow, who's had success there?
Our next on the Rise of Seer podcast, the best Cardinals talk on the web. Let's talk about potential cap casualties. Who are the players? Because the Cardinals have cap space, but they can get more. That's coming on next. Our Cardinals talk on the web. This time of year, we start talking cuts to players who are under contract to save space. We saw some big moves from Miami already. Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb. The Cardinals are in the top half of the NFL, top third of the NFL in cap space with more than 39 million available. But there's moves that they can make that would increase that. And let's talk about some of those guys. I think off the top, I feel are inevitable. There's cornerback Sean Murphy Bunting. There's lineman Bilal Nichols and running back James Conner. Murphy Bunting, who missed all last year when he had injured his knee doing something in the offseason, he ended up losing most of his salary, got paid the league minimum because he was on non-football injury. But he's going to count more than $9 million against the cap, and cutting him would save $7.2 million. Bilal Nichols, who's 10 games in 2 seasons. They can save almost $6 million in cap space by cutting him. He has no guarantees left. And then the tough one is James Conner, who will count nearly $10 million against the cap. But if they cut him, he'll save $7.5 million. For those 3 guys, Seth, do you think that all 3 of them are inevitability, or is there a chance that one of them could sneak back?
I think Connor could sneak back, but he'd have to, agree to a renegotiated salary. It almost have to be like, here's one, vet min. I don't know what the vet min is off the top of my head. But it almost have to be like, here's the vet min. And then, oh, hey, you're playing, we'll put, the rest of your salary in as incentives. And if you reach those incentives, then we'll pay you what we're going to pay you. But outside of that, I think you're 1000% right. That's those guys all are kind of got to go, and it is what it is. There's realities of how this roster needs to be broken down, and the biggest one looming is one that doesn't really save them a ton of money this year, right?
I mean, if you're talking about Kyler Murray, the thing is with them, his is tricky because if a straight cut, they're going to lose $2 million against the cap unless they post June 1st him. And if they post June 1st him, they're going to carry that cap space all the way until June 2nd. And then they would be able to they'd be able to save, what is it? Some cap space, but hardly any. It would be hardly any.
I think it's very, very minimal. So so that's what it becomes. And so you look at different choices to make. You mentioned a couple. So you go in and the next question is the guy like Dalvin Tomlinson.
Yes. Dalvin Tomlinson saves them some money. However, he also, granted, he did not produce what we hoped he would have produced himself. And I'm waiting for my computer to scroll down to the page as it's decided to be a little slow. But Dalvin Tomlinson would, if you cut him, he counts $16.2 million. Regular caps cut would be $9.4 million in cap savings, 6.8 in dead money. But if they post June 1st him, they would free up $14.5 million. Now, by the way, just a little bit of math. The 3 guys we said were inevitable: Nichols, Murphy Bunting, and Connor. We're looking at an additional $20 million in space. So that'd push them up to about $60 million in total cap space. Tomlinson's interesting because if you cut him, who's playing there? Who are you replacing him with? And was last season, what was his lack of production? Now, he's never been a big tackle guy, but he wasn't particularly effective most of the year. And he started the year looking tired and old. And he had some good plays, but he wasn't the player that he was in Cleveland, to say the least.
No, and he definitely wasn't anywhere worth, 8 or 16 million next year. So that's another one. A couple other guys that you can look at, and it's tough to make these decisions, but we've talked a little bit about it, and obviously it's a very difficult situation. Evan Brown, though, you release Evan Brown, you're saving about $4 million in cap space, which would be, again, helpful.
Then, like, if you replace him, so the question is, who are you adding to replace him? Are you going with a high price guy at guard, or do you think that Isaiah Adams / John Gaines can fill that role? But yeah, both Evan Brown and Yelda Froholt are kind of in the same boat, and the unknown for me is because it's a different offensive staff. So I don't know what they think about him. I don't know what they think about these guys, and the fact that Brown missed the last 6 games of the season, and it wasn't as sinister as we thought it was, that he had a personal thing going on and that kept him out for a game. The team just said, yeah, just don't bother coming back. It was dealing with the baby, and it was sad. It was sad. But yeah, that's the interesting thing. Like, if you cut guys like Evan Brown and Yelda Froholt, the tricky part is who are you replacing them with? And are you replacing them with someone better? Okay, good. Are you replacing them with someone equal but costing more? Because, $4.9 million saved doesn't get you much in the free agent guard space.
Nope, not at all. And then the next one is going to be, obviously Jacoby. Are you moving off him? Are you moving? And so I know it's not going to be a clean release, but are you willing to, trade him? If they trade him, and just a straight up trade, no salaries, or anything like that, they're saving about $6.5 million, which, again, if he's going to be the starter, then he's worth $6.5 million, right? If he's not going to be the starter, then is he worth keeping around as the, lead backup in Mike LaFleur's offense? And that's a question that only LaFleur can answer, obviously. So, but $6.5 million, it would be very odd to blow out both your quarterbacks in one offseason, right? But
we expect it.
Well, and here's the thing. This is one of the more unique situations, not Jacoby specifically, but this offseason specifically, because you rarely see a GM retained in the way that Austin Fort was, when all of his decisions have kind of failed, right? Like, you look at the Dolphins situation, and you mentioned it, right? The Dolphins came in and they released all those guys, but the new GM was like, I don't care. Like, not my clowns, not my circus, right? Like, those guys are gone. They're not my problem. And so we're not going to see that with Monty Ossenfort, because a lot of these guys, going back to the conversation about egos and things of that nature, a lot of these guys like Ossenfort are going to be like, no, I'm right. It was the coaching that was wrong, even though they brought a bunch of the coaches back. You need to get these guys up to speed. And that is something that's difficult sometimes, but we'll see, how it plays out and what the plan is. Because, guys were mentioning specifically Yelda Froholt, right? Alvin Tomlinson, those guys were, big time signings, or were done under the guise of big time signings by the program. And now you're like convincing people that they need to go, right? So it's just a little bit of a different situation than what we're used to. So we'll see how it all plays out.
There's two guys that I want to bring up that are interesting because they're on the defensive side of the ball, and they are very connected to Rallis. Baron Browning, Zaven Collins. Both together, if cut, would save about $11 million. It's Baron saves a little bit more, I think $6.75 million. Zaven, you save a little more than $4 million, but we know how much the coaching staff, we know how much Zaven loves Zaven Collins. Do you see either one of those guys? And it's important to note, Baron Browning had a whopping 2 sacks last season. He did not, after got re-signed as a kind of a low key, could have been a productive pass rusher. It was Josh Sweat and nothing in terms of edge production. Zaven gave nothing in the pass rush, though. Zaven is a very good player. He's a very good edge defender if you don't worry about sacks. He does all the other stuff. Barron didn't produce much. Jordan Birch didn't produce much. BJ Ojolari played. He didn't really produce much late in the year. They kind of have to remake that room. If you had to pick 0, 1, or both returns in 2026.
I think Zaven returns. I think Browning's probably gone because, like you said, he didn't produce anything on, in either facet of the game, whereas at least Zaven gives you something. And one of the key mistakes that everybody makes when they're playing GM, and you astutely brought it up on every one of these questions, who are you replacing them with? You don't have guys in-house ready to go. So how are you replacing them? And I get it. A 3-win team, you mentioned the win total, lowest in the NFL, very low expectations. So maybe they're okay going, if we're bad again next year, we're bad again next year. But like, again, we would prefer to see them get out of that mentality, right? Like we would prefer to see them start to be like, no, this is a winning culture and that's how we're going to set this thing up, as opposed to, oh, let's tank for Arch Griffin. Like that's already on my nerves. I'm not even going to lie. So, that'll be what's interesting to watch because, yeah, probably theoretically new staff. I know Rallis is back, but like you'd probably just cut both Browning and Zaven and move on with the money. But with regards to Evan, with regards to Yelda, with regards to those two, like who are the replacements? You don't have any. So like you can't just make wholesale changes to make wholesale changes because you have to have guys in place or have the ability to replace them. And because you have so many needs anyways, you can't.
Well, at least you can look at, if they already have a plan, the draft at the edge. So you could bring back Zaven. He's your first and second down starter with Josh Sweat. You cut Browning, and then you draft David Bailey or Bill Reese because we know how they love Ohio State guys. But you could get a big time edge to pair with Sweat at the top of the draft, and you might have that plan, but even in that scenario, I think Zaven returns because he.
I agree 100%.
So many things, and it is funny because people I saw recently on social media complaining about we need to put Zaven back to middle linebacker. I'm like, what? Why? Yes, he was more productive on a tackle basis, but in terms of the type of player he is, no, he's no good for sacks. Like he did get the 5 sacks in 2024, so that was good for him. He, like what they ask him to do, he is very skilled at. And what he wasn't really skilled at when he was playing off the ball was those initial reads. And so he was a half a step slow on those. He, inside linebackers, they can pile up tackles and not be good. But it was clear that Gannon, Austin, Fort, Rawlis, they viewed him because of his size as a base edge guy, but versatile enough to do things from that. So you can rush him inside, you can drop him into coverage, and if you play a 3-4 defense, you need edges who can drop. It's a requirement, or you're losing all of your creativity. And so, not that I think that, I guess what? Zaven's been in this system now for 3 years. What makes us think that he's going to be good off the ball?
Right. And even when he was drafted to be an off the ball guy, they made that swap pretty instantaneously, because everybody was like, nope, can't do it. Not that guy. So
yeah. And any other, like Keem Davis Gaither.
I know. I mean, that's the thing, is you can nickel and dime this thing to death. But the reality is we'll see how it goes once the bullets start flying, so to speak, and they've actually got to make decisions, because I mean, like you said, the easy ones, Connor, Sean Murphy Bunting, Bilal Nichols, that frees up a good amount of cap space right away. That gets you to right around $50 million, and immediately you go, okay, so what's $60 million, right, or close to there, and so immediately you go, okay, like what's the plan right now? Do we need to be at 70? Do we need to be at 75? That's when you start
if they manage to trade Kyler, which I don't think is going to happen, then they get a ton of cap space, because then it would ultimately, they would save another $35 million with the trade.
Right. So we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, man, it's just definitely interesting to see how it's all coming together and what the plan is, because I'm interested to see. Again, I think the best leaders in general are very comfortable admitting their own mistakes. So what mistakes is Monty willing to eat, right? Like what mistakes is Monty willing to cop to? And so that'll be what's interesting to me.
Yeah, we'll see that over the next couple of weeks as free agency approaches. We've got that coming up here in a little more than 2 weeks. And so with that, we will wrap up this edition of the Rise of Sierra podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. We will not hear from Seth this coming week, as he will be traveling to go see his son graduate from, was it basic training? Is that where he's at?
Yeah, Air Force Academy, or the Air Force Basic Training in San Antonio. So very excited, very proud of him. So it should be a lot of fun.
That's fantastic. So whether it's me and someone else, we'll have some content next week. But until then, that's Seth Cox. I'm Jess Root. Thanks for listening. As always, we'll be back again soon.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up, See Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms, so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be Red, See Red, and of course, Rise Up, See Red.